We have some very interesting news to go over today. So Toronto Blue Jays have just made a sneaky good signing as they have signed an infielder that not only has a lot of MLB experience but shines in one particular aspect. We're going to break down exactly who this player is and discuss what it means going forward for the Jays, as well as a bunch of other free agency updates that have dropped this morning into this afternoon as a trade has just happened surrounding another AL East team. Multiple pieces of news to go over today, folks. Multiple things to discuss. But before we get into it all, if you're part of the percentage who aren't subscribed to the channel, quick reminder to hit the subscribe button. Ladies and gentlemen, I, of course, had a video earlier today on Tatsuya Imai, but there is more news that have dropped as the Jays have made an interesting signing, and it's not the signing that I'm sure a lot of you expected, or maybe any of you expected. If you did, leave it down below in the comment section. But it is, you can see Ari Alexander, so shout out to him. But you can see here, the Blue Jays are signing infielder Rodolfo Castro to a minor league deal with a spring training invite. He spent 2025 in AAA with the Phillies, and he has 194, so basically 200 games of MLB experience between the Phillies and the Pirates from 2021 to 2023. Now, you might be familiar with the name. He's actually had success at the big league level, specifically in 1 year. But you might be asking yourself, okay, it's a minor league contract. Why is this interesting at all? I can tell you why, and the main thing is, you can see right here from Rob Wong, the one thing that Castro does well is rake against left-handed pitching. 858 OPS and a 264 ISO versus lefties and 239 career plate appearances. So he absolutely masters left-handed pitching, and that is something that the Jays were missing. They tried to get it at the deadline with Ty France. We think back to the many times, even into the World Series, where they were pinch hitting against lefties, Miles Straw and other guys like that. So they now have a guy who, depending how he does, of course, has the ability to at least mash lefties. Now, keep in mind, he's coming off of a very bad year. We'll dive into all these things, but I like the signing. You can never go wrong with a minor league signing. You can never go wrong with anything like that. Now, you might look at his stats last year and be underwhelmed because he didn't actually play in 2024, so obviously you'd be underwhelmed. But in 2023 with the Phillies, because of course he spent, and we'll dive into his minor league stuff, but he spent all of last year in the minors. But in 2023 with the Phillies, he put up a negative 27 OPS plus with the Phillies, of course. And then with the Pirates, he put up an 83 OPS plus. But in 2022, that was, of course, the year where I'm not going to say broke out, but he had a solid year, hit for a 103 OPS. But for the Jays, he'll be specifically a left-handed masher, right? And you can see here, he's only 26 years old. He's played parts in 3 big league seasons, with most of the time coming in Pittsburgh. Had a pretty good year way back in 2022. And then last year in AAA, he had a slash line of a 235 average, a 324 on-base percentage, and a 421 OPS. So he was pretty good down in the minors last year. And of course, he's not the best hitter against righties in general. And you look at his baseball savant from his last full season, pretty good defensively, at least arm strength at short. But again, they don't really need a shortstop right now, and the advanced analytics look pretty rough. He is going to be brought in to see if he can mash lefties in spring training, and if he can, they will have a spot for him. Obviously, they could go out and still get another guy who mashes lefties. You have Anthony Santander coming back here. There's a lot of different guys that are going to be fighting for that spot, but again, minor league contract, you specifically can't go wrong at all. You can never go wrong with any sort of minor league deal. And you can see here that MLB Trade Rumors goes on to discuss that during his prospect days, in the last sentence there in the second paragraph, Baseball America labeled him as a serviceable defender at all 3 positions and profiled him as a future bench piece. And that'll be the role that Castro vies for next spring. And of course, depending what happens with Bichette, Andres Jimenez, all these different things, they have a lot of utility players. Ernie Clement can play multiple positions. David Schneider can play multiple positions. Obviously, Miles Straw can play any of the outfield positions. And you have Leo Jimenez, other guys. And of course, Tyler Heineman is your backup catcher. The bench right now is pretty uncertain. And this obviously, let's not be ridiculous. This isn't going to take away from any of their abilities to spend big in the offseason. But it does provide them some depth if Bo Bichette walks or other things like that. You're obviously not going to be looking at Miguel Castro as the answer. That would be, not Miguel Castro. Rodolfo Castro as the answer. That would be ludicrous. But you can never go wrong with an extra piece of depth, especially someone who has a specific role, which at the big league level will be to hit left-handed pitching, and he has some good advanced analytics there. So let me know down below what your thoughts are on this, signing. Again, it's not going to blow everyone away. It's not going to tear the roof down off of Rogers Center, but it's a serviceable signing, especially as you look now. Again, they don't have Bo Bichette, so their infield, it's not really weak at all in depth. You have Ernie Clement, you have Andres Jimenez, Berger, Schneider, Jimenez, but having a bench bat that's not Miles Straw against lefties this year is going to be crucial and something that there's a clear path to upgrade, even if it is a minor league deal. Let me know down below your thoughts are on that. A few other things to go over today is there is a lot of news that just dropped. Now, moments ago, Jeff Passan had tweeted that the Boston Red Sox are acquiring right-hander Sonny Gray in a trade with the Cardinals. The Red Sox get the veteran who said he would waive his no-trade clause to leave. First in the news was Jon Heyman. So I'm going to, at this point, let me know down below what the full return is as it comes out. But the most important thing now is that this is another, piece that is another team, rather, that probably isn't going to go after the high-end starting pitchers in the free agency market. Now, maybe this doesn't stop them. Of course, I'm not saying it does necessarily. The Red Sox are open and always open to making trades for starting pitchers. Last offseason, we saw Garrett Crochet, then they extended him. Now they're trading for Sonny Gray, who is a very solid pitcher. But if I'm the Jays, like Keegan Madison said in my show there a couple weeks ago, they need to go after the highest end talent, whether that be Tetsuya Imai, whether that be Ranger Suarez. There's a lot of players that they can go after that I would prefer over Sonny Gray, and that wouldn't cost assets to get. You can't imagine that the Red Sox are going to give up a ton in this, in this trade. But at the end of the day, it's going to be interesting. But also, Sonny Gray, he had a no trade clause, so he could I'm not going to say he could have picked where he went, but if there was between a bunch of teams, or if it was between a bunch of teams, he had a bit of say there. So the free agency market is slowly starting to move, folks, and the trade market, I guess, in this case. And we know that Ross Atkins came out recently and said, or I guess a couple weeks ago now, November 13th, I believe it was, or maybe November 11th, it doesn't really matter, and said that they're going to be active in the trade market, and they had already checked in on multiple pieces. I assume Sonny Gray was one of them. I assume they're going to be looking in at a lot of the other starting pitchers, but to see the market start to develop now, not just through, free agency signings like Rodolfo Castro, but trades like Sonny Gray and others, makes things pretty encouraging. And a new report also dropped here this morning, revealing that multiple league sources said that they expect the reliever market to pick up around the start of winter meetings, which is in a couple of weeks. Until then, Helsley remains open-minded to the free agent process and is eager to prove he's capable of returning to his all-star form. And this is specifically regarding Ryan Helsley, who the Jays are also linked to because of from Keegan Matheson. So it seems most of the big moves are going to wait until the winter meeting, similar to what we've seen every year, whether that be Shohei Ohtani, whether it be Juan Soto, and especially in this case, Kyle Tucker, who I expect the Jays to be all in on. We'll have to wait a little bit on that. So let me know down below what your thoughts are on that. One other thing before I wrap up here, Don Mattingly recently spoke out on the bases loaded play in Game 7. I hate talking about it, but he did speak out on it, and he actually admitted that they made an error, and not that IKF made an error, but them as a coaching staff. And of course, Donnie's now not with the Jays anymore. He's looking for a job elsewhere. I don't believe he's found a job at this point. Correct me down below if I'm wrong, but Dalton Varsho was obviously up to bat. IKF, or one out, IKF at third, and he basically admitted that most of the time he was in the right spot, right, being that close to the bag. But because Dalton Varsho doesn't line out to third base very much, IKF should have had a 1 or 2 step lead bigger, right? Because obviously Kirk at first base was right next to the bag, protecting for the double play. Varsho hits a ton of line drives to first. He doesn't hit line drives to the opposite field. IKF should have been further off the bag, which means Don Mattingly admitted the coaching staff cost them a World Series, if you want to say it that way, but of course it goes beyond that. So let me know down below what your thoughts are on that. It's saddening, but I'm over it now. Got to push on and move on to multiple to the moves that are on the horizon here and to next season. But that'll wrap it up. Let me know down below what your thoughts are. See you guys later.